Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to create a sunflower to add interest and flair to a journaling or art journaling project using paper tearing and collage on a watercolor sponged background. First things first is to choose an artwork you'd like to showcase with your sunflower creation. Here I have used my flower to add some pizzazz to a watercolor hummingbird I did with my students a while back. But you can use any artwork you like. Then, to allow your artwork and flower to look like one cohesive design unit, you need to choose paper for your flower according to the colors that feature in your artwork. You need at least 4 different papers for this project. Choose 2 different colored papers. I chose purple and pink to match my hummingbird. And then you want 2 different textured papers. And by texture, I mean it has some sort of markings on it, whether it be writing or a watercolor wash like I used, or perhaps some sort of pattern. See what interesting textural paper you can find, either by ordering online. The links to my supplies can be found in the video description, or you can find paper in your home, like in your gift wrap collection or somewhere similar. And then you just tear using your fingers, just tear strips of paper that are more or less long, thin petal shapes. Okay? You don't need to be too pedantic, too perfectionist here. Just allow that paper to tear however it wants to go, and just get interesting long thinned shapes that taper at the one end. That's what you're after here. All right, so I tore quite a number of petals from the 4 different types of paper, as I said before: the pink, purple, the tea stained writing pages, as well as the watercolor wash paper as well. So yeah, I'd love to see your creation when it's done and see what paper you've chosen for yours. But again, just generally, you're choosing paper that it's going to match or go with your... Just use your eye. If it's pleasing to your eye, it will be lovely, okay? Don't overthink it, right? And the same with the paper tearing of those petals. Don't overthink the shapes. You just want long, thin pieces that taper at the one end, all right? And you can see that I'm already starting to kind of get the feel of that flower shape. All right, now, before we go and stick the petals down, I did sponge the page straight in the journal. I sponged that page, and I used all 6 colors of my hummingbird. All right, I'm showing you here how I did it. So it's a normal thing we do in class. It's shaving the pencils, adding the water, mixing it up. I am mixing from light color to dark. So I started with the yellow. I will end with the dark purple. The purple is the darkest shade. But I do wash my brush between each color before I move on to mixing the next color. Right, now this little stamper is my other Temu find. Super cheap, great for stamping, like I'm going to show you here. That little pad that I've just tapped actually peels off. It's velcroed onto that wooden stamp handle. And then I can dip it into my paint palette because it is small enough to go into a paint palette. It's also circular in shape. And then I can squeeze out the rest of it, the paint, because I don't want that paint pad, that stamp pad, to be too wet. I squeeze out the excess paint back into my palette, and then I just go for my life. I just stamp. And again, I am working from lightest color to darkest color, okay? So I'll show you here now how this stamp pad works. The stamper, you see, peel it off, it's velcroed on, and I dip it into my cup of water, and smoosh it around a bit, get rid of that paint. And then when I'm done, I think it's clean enough, pull it out, squeeze it out really, really well to make sure that it is completely dry, and also to take off any excess paint. I smoosh it through some paper towel. Hope you understand my terminology of smoosh, but anyway. And then I can Velcro it back on the stamp block and repeat the process with each of the other colors. I am basically stamping on an area of the page that is about 2/3 of that page, but kind of like in a slanty border effect. Okay, how you stamp, or the area you stamp, is up to you. But basically, I'm stamping about 2/3 of that page. I am leaving the other third blank, just to create that idea of white space, open space, not to crowd my sponging and my flower too much. That open space, the white space at the top, is going to allow my wildflower design to breathe nicely and work in harmony with my hummingbird. All right, and then I just turned page to double check that it's not gone through. I suppose I should have done that first, but anyway, you live and learn. All right, so you leave that sponging to dry. When it is dry, you are then ready to stick your petals down. Okay, so start just getting an idea, just place them at first, just to see how things are looking. If you need to tweak the tearing of that paper, now is the time to do that. Are they perhaps a little bit too long? Are they a bit too short? What? Tweak them, and then you are good to go in sticking them down. All right. I stuck the plain dark colors first. So I stuck down the pink and I interspersed it with some purple. There you can see the purple. So the pink and purple went down first, then my watercolor wash, and then lastly I had some shorter petals in the tea stained paper with the writing on. I am also using a little circle of watercolor paper. I just have that on hand on my desk, just as a kind of like a placeholder. It's not stuck down. It's the center of the flower, just to get an idea of where I'm going to place those petals, so that the center of all of those petals, the area in the center of the flower that they overlap will be all covered, if you know what I mean. All right, so I'm just using that watercolor paper in the middle as a placeholder, and I will replace it later. You'll see what I do with that later. All right, so you're just sticking down all of your petals in a placement that is completely up to you, as long as you're getting flower shape radiating out from the circle, like almost like a sun. And now you can see, because of my flower being placed at the bottom right hand corner of the page, I have some petals overlapping the pages of my book. So I just turn over the page like so, and I snip off the petals that are overlapping. I don't want them anymore. And now I'm going to replace the center watercolor paper with a circle of my stamped paper. And this little Fiskars tool is amazing. I will leave a link to this tool in the lesson description as well, because basically you just slot it in there and squeeze and out comes a perfect circle. So wonderful. And then stick it down. You can also use, you can also do a watercolor wash center of the flower too, which I will leave the description of how to create in the lesson description. Right, if you don't have that Fiskars tool, or you don't want to get one, or you don't have any stamps to stamp on paper like I did for that central circle of the flower, or you don't know how to do a watercolor wash, then how about just doing some journaling by writing some of your thoughts or a lovely quote you found, something inspiring on some plain paper, then cut out a circle of your writing with scissors for the center of your flower. And then you are done. I hope you have enjoyed this creative activity, that it has brought some peace and calm into your day. And if you'd like to share it with me, I would love to see it. Please email me or share it via my Instagram. See you next time.